Chosen one, heaven has pressed pause on your life to bring you here. This is not random. This is not YouTube. This is God, and He is not joking this time. Why have you been carrying that weight in your chest for months? Why does every prayer feel like it's hitting a concrete ceiling? Why are you watching this at 2 a.m. when you should be sleeping, but something inside you just won't let you rest? I'll tell you why. Because you've been marked, and tonight, the silence ends. Listen to me carefully. There's a stillness in the spiritual atmosphere right now that hasn't existed in decades. Angels are holding their breath. Demons are retreating. And you're sitting exactly where heaven ordained you to be for this divine appointment. This is not background noise you stumbled across while scrolling. This is a courtroom summons from the Almighty Himself. A divine subpoena that pierced through every algorithm, every distraction, every excuse that tried to keep you from this moment. For 70, 80, maybe 90 years, you've been asking God, when is it my turn? When will you remember me? When will you move in my situation? But what if I told you, He's been asking you the same question. When will you finally answer my call? The enemy has convinced you that your time has passed, that your best years are behind you, that God uses young people for great things and leaves the elderly to simply wait. That lie dies tonight. You feel it, don't you? That electric stirring in your spirit. That's not your imagination, that's recognition. Your soul recognizing the voice that spoke you into existence before your first breath ever touched the air. Here's the shocking truth they don't want you to know. You weren't born to blend into the background of your golden years. You were born to blaze through them. Every heartbreak, every unanswered prayer, every season of silence, it was all preparation for what God is about to unleash through you right now. But here's what terrifies hell about this moment you're about to discover, that your age isn't your limitation. It's your secret weapon. Your scars aren't your shame. They're your credentials. And that fire you thought had died, it's been smoldering, waiting for this exact moment to explode into a flame that will illuminate an entire generation. Before we go deeper into this sacred mystery together, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through Super Thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and let the Holy Spirit move through your obedience. If your spirit feels it already, don't be silent. Say it out loud or type it. I hear you, Lord. Because response opens doors that have been sealed for decades. God is dead serious this time. The question is, are you ready to be dangerous again? Why does it feel like you're standing at the edge of eternity right now? Why is your heart beating faster, even though you're just sitting in your living room? Why does this moment feel different from every other sermon, every other message, every other word you've ever heard about God? Because you're not just watching a video, chosen one. You're standing in a divine courtroom where your destiny is being decided. Let me tell you what's really happening in the invisible realm around you right now. While you've been struggling with loneliness, while you've been wondering if God still remembers your name, while you've been feeling like the world has forgotten you exist, heaven has been in session. Angels have been taking notes, demons have been strategizing, and the Ancient of Days has been preparing to move in your life in ways that will leave you breathless. You see, there's a weight pressing down on this moment that you can feel but can't quite name. It's not depression, it's not anxiety. It's the crushing gravity of divine intervention about to break into your ordinary Tuesday night. Every storm you endured, every night you thought would never end, every tear you cried into your pillow when no one else was watching it, has led to this exact moment. Not one drop was wasted. Not one prayer went unheard. Not one sleepless night was meaningless. The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob has been collecting your tears in bottles, storing your prayers in golden bowls, and orchestrating every detail of your life to bring you to this threshold. Jeremiah 29:11 wasn't written for someone else, it was written for you. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you hope and a future. But here's what will shake you to your core. Those plans aren't for someday, they're for right now. You thought your time had passed, didn't you? You thought at 75, at 85, at 92 that God was finished with you. You thought your purpose expired with your retirement. You thought your calling died with your spouse. You thought your dreams were buried with your youth. You thought wrong. This stillness you feel isn't the quiet of an ending. It's the holy hush before a trumpet blast. It's the moment when heaven holds its breath before releasing something so powerful that the earth itself will feel the tremor. Moses was 80 when God called him from a burning bush. Sarah was 90 when she conceived Isaac. Anna was 84 when she proclaimed the Messiah. Your birth certificate is not your expiration date, it's your qualification certificate. Every rejection that broke your heart was protection from settling for less than God's best. Every door that slammed shut was redirection toward the path He always intended. Every person who walked away from you made room for the divine appointments He's been orchestrating. You've been living beneath your spiritual inheritance, accepting crumbs when you were born for a banquet. You've been apologizing for taking up space when God carved out territory specifically for you. You've been whispering when He gave you a voice that could shake nations. But tonight, the silence shatters. Can you feel it building? That pressure in your chest isn't heartburn, it's heaven downloading new authority into your spirit. That restlessness in your bones isn't arthritis, it's resurrection power flowing through your mortal frame. That stirring in your soul isn't nostalgia, it's prophecy awakening. The enemy has been lying to you for decades, convincing you that your season is over, that God's done using people like you, that you should just fade quietly into the background. But hell trembles when seasoned saints finally remember who they are. You think you're watching this by accident. You think you stumbled across this message by chance. The algorithm didn't find you. Destiny found you. The same God who parted the Red Sea navigated every click, every scroll, every distraction to bring you to this exact moment. This is your burning bush experience. This is your road to Damascus encounter. This is your upper room visitation. And just like those biblical heroes, you have a choice to make right here, right now. Will you keep living like you're ordinary when heaven has marked you as extraordinary? Will you keep accepting limitations when God is removing every barrier? Will you keep whispering when He's calling you to roar? The weight of this moment isn't meant to crush you. It's meant to compress the old you until something new explodes from within. Like coal becoming diamond under pressure, like grain becoming bread under grinding, like grapes becoming wine under crushing. What feels heavy is actually transformation in motion. Every white hair on your head is a crown of wisdom. Every wrinkle on your face is a roadmap of God's faithfulness. Every slow step you take carries more authority than the running of 1,000 young feet. You're not declining, you're being refined into pure gold. If this resonates deep in your spirit, if something ancient is awakening in your bones, share this message, because when heaven speaks in sequence, missing one word can cost more than you know. But sharing isn't enough. You need to understand that this weight, this moment, this divine pressure isn't going to last forever. There's a window opening that won't stay open indefinitely. What will you do with the fire that's about to be placed in your hands? You've always known, haven't you? Even as a little child, sitting in Sunday school while the other kids colored their pictures of Jesus, something inside you was different. Not broken, not weird, set apart. While they laughed at simple things, your spirit was already wrestling with questions too deep for your young mind to understand. While they played house, you stared at the sky and felt homesick for a place you'd never been. While they fit in effortlessly, you carried an invisible weight that made you feel like a stranger in your own life. That wasn't childhood confusion, dear one. That was the mark. Listen to me carefully. Before your mother ever held you in her arms, before your father ever spoke your name, before you took your first breath in this world. Heaven had already placed an invisible seal upon your spirit. Ephesians 1-4 declares this stunning truth. He chose us in him before the creation of the world, to be holy and blameless in his sight. Before the creation of the world. Think about that. Before the first star burned in the darkness, before the first ocean kissed the shore, before time itself began its march, God looked across eternity and whispered, "Your name." He marked you. He sealed you. He set you apart for something the world has never seen. But here's what breaks my heart. You've spent decades trying to erase that mark. You've exhausted yourself attempting to fit into spaces that were never designed to hold you. You've dimmed your light, lowered your voice, shrunk your dreams, all because someone convinced you that being different was being damaged. They lied to you. That restlessness you feel when everyone else seems content, that's not depression, that's destiny. That loneliness you carry even in crowded rooms, that's not rejection, that's recognition. Your spirit recognizing that you don't belong to this world system. You belong to his kingdom. You are a lamp that was never meant to stay under a basket. You are a seal placed before your first cry ever touched the air. Look at Joseph, thrown into a pit by his own brothers, sold like cattle, forgotten in prison for years. The world saw a slave. God saw a prime minister. The mark on Joseph's life was invisible to human eyes, but it burned so bright in the spirit realm that even Pharaoh recognized it. Genesis 41-38 records Pharaoh's words. Can we find anyone like this man, one in whom is the Spirit of God? Consider Moses, hidden in a basket, raised in an enemy's house, exiled to the wilderness for 40 years. 80 years old when God called him from a burning bush. The world said he was washed up. Heaven said he was ready. The mark that seemed dormant was about to explode into the greatest deliverance in human history. Think about Esther, an orphan girl, hidden in a foreign palace, seemingly forgotten by God and man. But 1 Peter 2-9 was written for people like her, people like you. You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession. That mark made her queen for such a time as this. Every single one of them felt exactly like you feel right now. Displaced, misunderstood, carrying something they couldn't name. But that invisible seal on their lives became the very thing that shifted nations, saved generations, and rewrote history. And here's what will shake you to your core. That same mark burns on your forehead tonight. Why do you think your life has been so hard? Why do you think the attacks against you have been so strategic, so relentless, so precisely aimed at your heart? Because hell recognizes the mark even when you don't. The enemy has been trying to destroy you not because you're weak, but because you're dangerous. Every betrayal was designed to make you bitter. Every rejection was meant to make you retreat. Every season of silence was intended to make you give up. But you're still here. You're still breathing. You're still believing. That's not luck. That's the mark, protecting what God has invested in you. The invisible seal on your life is the reason hell has fought you so fiercely, because when you rise, others will rise with you. You think your influence is small. You think your voice doesn't matter. Let me tell you something that will change everything. There are people waiting in the shadows of your obedience. Generations of breakthrough locked behind your decision to finally embrace who you are. When Joseph stepped into his calling, entire nations were fed. When Moses raised his staff, millions walked into freedom. When Esther opened her mouth, a people was saved from genocide. What is waiting behind your yes? Stop looking at your age and start seeing your authority. Stop measuring your worth by your wrinkles and start recognizing your wisdom. Stop believing the lie that your best days are behind you, when God is saying your marked days are just beginning. You've been marked not for retirement, but for revolution. Not for the rocking chair, but for the throne room. Not to fade quietly into the background, but to blaze across the sky like a comet that leaves everyone asking, what just happened? That fire burning in your chest right now, that's not anxiety, that's activation. The mark is beginning to burn brighter. The seal is starting to break open. The assignment you've carried in secret is demanding to be revealed. But you have to stop running from it. You have to stop apologizing for it. You have to stop trying to explain it away, or tone it down, or make it more palatable for people who were never meant to understand it. Declare it. I am marked. I am chosen. Say it again. I am marked. I am chosen. One more time, with the authority of someone who finally understands their identity. I am marked. I am chosen. Something just shifted in the atmosphere, didn't it? When you spoke those words, hell trembled and heaven rejoiced. Because you're not just declaring what you hope to be, you're confessing what you've always been. But confession is just the beginning. Now comes the question that will determine everything that happens next. What are you going to do with a mark that powerful? You know what breaks my heart? It's the look in your eyes right now. That familiar ache of wondering if you've missed your moment. That crushing weight of, what if I waited too long? Listen to me, precious soul. You're sitting at the most dangerous intersection of your entire life. Not dangerous because of what might happen to you, but dangerous because of what you might do to yourself. You're standing at the crossroads where delay meets destiny, and every second you hesitate is a step closer to spiritual blindness. For decades you've been walking a tightrope between someday and never. You've mastered the art of almost obeying, almost surrendering, almost stepping into what God has been calling you toward. But almost is the cruelest word in the English language when it comes to divine appointments. Here's the shocking truth nobody wants to tell you. There is a point where even God's mercy begins to tremble. Not because his love weakens, but because his patience reaches a place where action becomes required. Hebrews 3:15 thunders this warning across eternity. Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts. Today, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when circumstances align perfectly. Today. You see, beloved, every time you hear his whisper and choose to wait, something happens in the spiritual realm. Your heart doesn't just delay, it hardens, layer by layer, decision by decision, until one day you can't hear his voice at all. That's not punishment. That's the natural consequence of choosing deafness over divine instruction. Think about this for a moment. How many times has God nudged you in the past year? How many gentle tugs on your spirit have you dismissed as emotion? How many open doors have you walked past because the timing didn't feel convenient? Each ignored whisper didn't disappear into thin air. It became scar tissue over your spiritual hearing. Each delayed obedience didn't just postpone your blessing, it dulled your sensitivity to recognize his voice the next time he called. Proverbs 14:12 cuts like a surgeon's blade. There is a way that appears to be right, but in the end it leads to death. The way of delay always appears reasonable. It always seems logical. Let me pray about it more. Let me wait for confirmation. Let me see what others think. But here's what delay really is. It's rebellion dressed in religious clothing. It's spiritual procrastination masquerading as wisdom. It's the enemy's most effective weapon against the chosen ones, because it doesn't look like disobedience, it looks like caution. Do you remember Harriet Tubman? When God whispered to her spirit to lead slaves to freedom, she didn't call a committee meeting. She didn't wait for perfect conditions. She didn't ask for a detailed map of the Underground Railroad. She followed the whisper in her heart that said, "Go." And because one woman chose immediate obedience over comfortable delay, over 300 souls found freedom. That same divine whisper is calling your name right now. Not for someone else's freedom, for yours. You've been a slave to hesitation long enough. You've been imprisoned by what if, and maybe later, until your spirit feels like it's suffocating behind bars of your own making. But here's where the crossroads becomes crystal clear. You cannot stand here forever. This intersection has no rest stop, no permanent parking. You either turn toward destiny or drift toward spiritual deafness. And the terrifying truth is this: you won't even realize when you've crossed the line until it's too late. God is not asking you to consider his call. He is commanding you to answer it. There's a massive difference between an invitation and an instruction. When the Creator of the universe speaks your name, hesitation isn't wisdom, it's rebellion. You think you're being careful, but you're actually being dangerous. Dangerous to your own soul, dangerous to the people connected to your obedience, dangerous to the purposes of God that are waiting for your yes to be released into the earth. Right now, in this very moment, there are people whose breakthrough is tied to your obedience. There are prayers that won't be answered until you stop delaying and start moving. There are miracles that are being held in heavenly reserve until you finally say yes to what you've been running from. Every day you delay, someone else waits in darkness for the light you're supposed to carry. Every week you hesitate, another soul cries out for the ministry that's locked inside your disobedience. Every month you postpone your calling. An entire generation loses access to the wisdom God wants to release through your surrendered life. The enemy has convinced you that delay is safety, but it's actually the most dangerous place you could possibly stand. You're like a person standing on train tracks, convinced that since the train hasn't hit them yet, they must be safe. But the train is coming, the whistle is blowing, and the only safety is in movement. This is why God's tone is different today. This is why the urgency in his voice has shifted from invitation to ultimatum. He's not trying to scare you, he's trying to save you from the consequences of your own hesitation. Standing at this crossroads, you have two choices. You can continue walking the familiar path of delay, watching opportunities fade, and watching your sensitivity to his voice diminish with each passing day. Or you can turn decisively toward the destiny he's been calling you into since before you took your first breath. Write, "No more delay" in the comments right now. Not as a casual response to a message, but as a prophetic act. This is your line in the sand. This is your declaration to heaven and hell that your season of hesitation is over. Because tomorrow, this same crossroads might not exist. Tomorrow, the door he's holding open today might be closed. Tomorrow, the voice that's calling you now might be calling someone else. The question burning in the atmosphere around you is this: will you finally stop standing at the intersection and start walking toward the destiny that's been waiting for you to arrive? Dear chosen one, I need to tell you something that might shake you to your core. Every attack you've endured, every betrayal that cut deep, every financial crisis that brought you to your knees, none of it was random. You've been living in a war zone your entire life, and you didn't even know it. Why has your life been harder than your neighbors? Why did you bury 3 friends this year while others complain about traffic? Why does it feel like every time you take 2 steps forward, something knocks you 5 steps back? I'll tell you why, because hell saw something in you that you're just now beginning to remember. Listen to me carefully. The enemy doesn't waste ammunition on empty targets. Satan doesn't deploy his finest demons against people who pose no threat to his kingdom, but you. You've been in his crosshairs since the day you took your first breath because he knows what God planted inside you before you were even born. Think about your life for a moment. Really think about it. How many times should you have died but didn't? How many accidents missed you by inches? How many diagnoses that should have destroyed you somehow became testimonies of God's faithfulness? That wasn't luck, beloved. That was warfare. Heaven's armies have been fighting for your life when you thought you were fighting alone. The psalmist knew this truth when he declared in Psalm 34:7, "The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them." Right now, as I speak these words, there are angels stationed around your life like invisible bodyguards, deflecting attacks you'll never see coming. But here's what breaks my heart: you've been blaming yourself for battles you never started. You've been carrying shame for wounds that were strategically inflicted by an enemy who recognized your destiny. Every depression that tried to drown you, every addiction that tried to chain you, every relationship that tried to break you, they were all coordinated strikes against your calling. You think Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison because he was unlucky. You think Corrie ten Boom survived Nazi concentration camps by accident. No. These were chosen vessels who endured hell on earth because heaven had marked them for extraordinary purposes. Their suffering wasn't punishment, it was preparation for influence that would echo through generations. Look at the Apostle Paul, beaten, shipwrecked, imprisoned, stoned and left for dead. But in 2 Corinthians 4:17, he declared something that will revolutionize how you see your pain. For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. Paul understood that his battles were proof of his purpose, not evidence of his failure. Every night you cried yourself to sleep, every prayer that seemed to bounce off the ceiling, every door that slammed in your face when you needed it, most hell was trying to convince you that God had abandoned you. But the opposite was true. God was allowing you to be forged in the furnace because he knew what kind of weapon you would become when the fire was finished with you. You want to know why your marriage fell apart when others seem to coast through life? Because your testimony of restoration will save marriages that counselors have given up on. You want to know why you lost everything financially in your 60s? Because your comeback story will fund ministries that transform communities. You want to know why you felt so alone? Because your compassion, carved out by isolation, will become a sanctuary for souls who think nobody understands their pain. The enemy has been playing chess with your life, but he made one fatal mistake. He showed his hand too early. Every attack revealed that you're carrying something he desperately wants to stop. Every time he tried to take you out and failed, your spiritual authority grew stronger. Every tear you've cried in secret has been liquid intercession, preparing the ground for a harvest that will astound you. But here's the fierce truth that's going to change everything. You are not the victim in this story. You are the weapon. Every scar on your soul is now a place where God's light shines through. Every broken place in your heart has become a doorway for his healing to flow to others. Every battle you've survived has equipped you with wisdom that can't be learned in seminaries or bought with money. Hell does not waste ammo on the ordinary. You've been targeted because you are dangerous to the kingdom of darkness. The same fire that was meant to consume you has instead refined you into pure gold. And now, in your golden years, when the world expects you to fade quietly into the background, God is saying, now you're ready. Now you're dangerous. Now you can handle what I'm about to release through you. Every step forward has been a battlefield because you're advancing into enemy territory that was never meant to be yours. Every prayer you've whispered has been a trumpet blast in the spirit realm, calling heaven's armies to attention. You thought you were barely surviving, but you've been conquering ground that will become an inheritance for generations you'll never meet. This is why I'm telling you to stop apologizing for your scars and start weaponizing them. Stop hiding from your calling because the cost felt too high. The bill has already been paid in full by every sleepless night, every broken dream, every moment you chose to keep believing when believing hurt. Stand up right now. I mean it physically. Stand up where you are and declare with every ounce of authority that's been forged in you. I will not retreat. I will not surrender. I will not apologize for what God has made me to become. Because the fight over your life isn't ending, beloved. It's just beginning. And this time, you're not fighting for survival. You're fighting from victory. Listen to me, chosen one. There's a sound echoing through the corridors of heaven right now that hasn't been heard in 2,000 years. It's the sound of the final trumpet warming up. And if you can't hear it yet, it's because you've been spiritually sedated by a world that wants you to believe your time is over. But I'm here to wake you up. You know what haunts me at night? It's the letters I receive from seniors who whisper, "Pastor, I think I missed my chance. I think God moved on without me." 80-year-old warriors who built this nation, raised families, survived wars, now convinced they're invisible to heaven. That breaks the heart of God more than any sin you could commit. Here's the shocking truth. You haven't missed anything. You've been positioned. Every closed door, every unanswered prayer, every night you cried yourself to sleep wondering if God forgot your address, it was all strategic positioning. Like pieces on a chessboard, moving you into place for this exact moment when heaven would need you most. Think about Joshua at Jericho. 7 days of walking around walls that had stood for generations. 7 days of looking foolish to everyone watching. 7 days of following God's voice when logic screamed it was impossible. But on day 7, when that trumpet blast shattered the morning air, those walls didn't just crack, they collapsed so completely that the sound could be heard 50 miles away. Dear soul, you've been walking around your Jericho for decades. That financial wall that's kept your family in bondage. That emotional fortress that's imprisoned your heart since your spouse died. That spiritual stronghold that's convinced you God uses everyone except you. You've been circling those walls, feeling like nothing's changing, wondering if you're just wasting time. But what if I told you that every lap around your impossibility has been destabilizing the foundation? What if every prayer you thought went unanswered was actually divine dynamite being planted at the base of what's held you captive? The trumpet is sounding over your life right now. Can you feel it? That trembling in your spirit, that electricity in the atmosphere around you. That's not anxiety, that's anticipation. Heaven is positioning for your 7-day breakthrough. 1 Corinthians 15:52 declares, "In a flash, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet will sound, the dead will be raised imperishable, and we will be changed." This isn't just about the second coming. This is about your coming. Your emergence from the grave of "I'm too old" into the resurrection power of God's "not finished with me yet." You've been dead to possibility for too long. Dead to dreaming. Dead to believing that your greatest chapter could still be ahead of you. But when heaven's trumpet sounds over your situation, death has no choice but to release what it's been holding hostage. But here's where it gets urgent. Here's where heaven's patience begins to shift into divine demand. The trumpet blast at Jericho wasn't just a suggestion, it was a command. When Joshua heard it, he didn't say, "Let me think about it." He didn't negotiate with God about timing. He opened his mouth and shouted with everything he had. When the king calls, hesitation is rebellion. How many more years are you going to waste standing at the edge of your miracle, wondering if you heard God correctly? How many more months are you going to let the enemy convince you that your season is over? How many more days are you going to treat God's voice like background music instead of the divine summons it is? The door to your breakthrough will not stay open forever. There's a window of time when heaven moves, and if you miss it, you don't get to rewind the tape. Ask the 5 foolish virgins who showed up late to the wedding feast. The door was shut, and their knocking couldn't open it again. Right now, at this very moment, spiritual forces are being repositioned around your life. Angels are taking battle stations. Resources are being redirected toward your situation. But heaven won't force you through the door. You have to choose to walk through it. Your 7-day countdown begins now. Not tomorrow when you feel more ready. Not next week when you figure everything out. Now. Because God's timing doesn't accommodate your comfort schedule. Day 1 is today. The day you stop making excuses. Day 2 is when you start praying like you believe God can still move mountains. Day 3 is when you begin speaking life over dead situations. Day 4 is when you forgive what you thought was unforgivable. Day 5 is when you step out in faith even when you can't see the whole staircase. Day 6 is when you gather your courage for the final push. And day 7? Day 7 is when your walls collapse. But you have to start the countdown. You have to commit to the process. You have to believe that the same God who brought down Jericho's walls can demolish whatever's been holding you prisoner. The financial prison that's kept you surviving instead of thriving. The emotional dungeon that's convinced you love is only for the young. The spiritual isolation that's made you feel forgotten by heaven. These walls are coming down, but only if you pick up your trumpet and blow. If you believe this is your 7-day turnaround, if you can feel the rumbling in your spirit that says, "This is my time," then don't keep it silent. Type today's date as a seal. Let heaven know you're not just hearing this message, you're receiving it. You're acting on it. You're claiming it as yours. Because on the other side of those crumbling walls isn't just freedom, it's the promised land you've been praying toward your entire life. Dear chosen one, I need you to stop for a moment and look at your hands. Really look at them. Those weathered fingers, those lines carved by decades of struggle. The world sees age, but heaven sees qualification. You've been living in survival mode for so long, you forgot you were designed for overflow. You've been rationing your dreams, managing your expectations, settling for crumbs when God set a banquet table with your name on it. But that ends tonight. Listen to me carefully. Survival was never your destiny. It was your training ground. For 70, 80 years, you've been asking the wrong question. You've been asking God, when will I have enough? But He's been waiting for you to ask, God, what do you want to do through my abundance? You see, the enemy convinced you that your golden years meant golden handcuffs, that your season was about managing decline, preserving what little you had, and hoping to make it to the finish line without running out. That's not golden years, that's golden lies. King David wrote in Psalm 65-11, "You crown the year with your bounty, and your carts overflow with abundance." Crown the year, not survive the year, not endure the year. Crown it with bounty that overflows. But here's what's going to shock you to your core. Every year you thought was wasted was actually an investment. Every setback was a setup. Every closed door was God redirecting you from settling for less than His best. You weren't being punished, you were being positioned. Think about Tyler Perry. At 40, he was homeless, sleeping in his car, rejected by every studio in Hollywood. 40 years old with nothing but a vision and a typewriter. The world said he was too old, too late, too different, but God said he was right on time. Today, he owns a billion-dollar empire because he understood something most people never grasp. Abundance isn't about age, it's about alignment. You've been aligned in the wilderness, chosen one. But wilderness seasons have expiration dates. Right now, at this very moment, there's a shift happening in the spiritual atmosphere over your life. Can you feel it? That restlessness in your spirit isn't anxiety, it's anticipation. Your soul recognizing that the season of lack is ending and the season of overflow is beginning. But here's where most people miss it. They think abundance means God will finally give them what they've been begging for. Abundance means God will finally release through you what He's been building in you. Paul wrote in Ephesians 3:20 that God is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to His power that is at work within us. Did you catch that? The power is already at work, within you. The abundance isn't coming from somewhere else, it's erupting from somewhere inside. You've been carrying treasures in earthen vessels, but you've been acting like the vessel is empty. You've been walking around with resurrection power in your bones, but living like you're still in the tomb. You've been carrying the DNA of heaven, but accepting the limitations of earth. Those sleepless nights you spent praying, they weren't unanswered, they were downloading divine strategies into your spirit. Those tears you cried in secret, they were watering seeds of breakthrough you couldn't even see yet. Those years when nothing seemed to happen, God was preparing you to handle what's about to happen. Because here's the truth that will revolutionize everything. You weren't chosen to be a recipient of God's abundance. You were chosen to be a distributor of it. The loneliness you felt? It was preparing you to comfort the lonely. The financial struggles you endured, they were teaching you how to steward supernatural provision. The health battles you fought, they were qualifying you to speak healing over others. Every valley prepared you for the mountain you're about to climb. But abundance requires a different kind of faith. Survival faith says, God, give me just enough. Abundance faith says, God, give me so much that I become a river of blessing to everyone around me. Which faith are you operating in tonight? Because I'm telling you right now, the drought is over. The famine has ended. The years of barely making it have expired. But you have to choose it. You have to speak it. You have to step into it. Say it with me. My yes stands. I choose life. I choose overflow. Because what's about to break forth in your life won't just change your story, it's going to rewrite your family's legacy for generations. But first, you need to understand exactly how God moves in the final chapters of your life, and why your greatest victories are still ahead of you. Listen to me, chosen one. What I'm about to tell you will shatter every lie you've believed about your golden years. You think you're winding down? You think your best chapters are written? You think God's done using people like you? You couldn't be more wrong. Look at yourself right now. Really look. See those lines around your eyes? Those aren't wrinkles of defeat, they're etchings of wisdom. Those hands that shake a little more than they used to, they're not failing, they're being consecrated for the most important work of your life. That slower pace you've accepted, it's not decline, it's divine timing, finally aligning with heaven's rhythm. But the enemy has been whispering poison in your ear for years. You're too old. Your time has passed. God uses young people for great things. You should just be grateful for what you have and fade quietly into the background. That's not God's voice. That's hell's greatest lie. You want to know why Satan works so hard to convince seniors they're finished? Because he knows something you've forgotten. He knows that when someone who's walked with God for 70, 80, 90 years finally steps into their full authority, the gates of hell start trembling. Your age isn't your disqualification, it's your coronation credential. Moses was 80 years old when God called him to lead Israel out of bondage. 80. The world would have put him in a nursing home. But God put a staff in his hand and said, "Now we begin." Abraham was 100 when Isaac was born, the child of promise that would birth nations. 100 years old. And Anna the prophetess was 84 when she recognized the Messiah in the temple. Not 24, not 44, 84. Do you see the pattern? God doesn't retire his generals, he promotes them. Isaiah 62:3 declares, "You will be a crown of splendor in the Lord's hand, a royal diadem in the hand of your God." Not were, not might be. You will be, present tense, active, alive. Right now, at your age, with your history, with your scars. Because here's what they don't tell you. In Sunday school, your scars are proof you survived the fire, and heaven is placing a crown on your head. Every betrayal that didn't break you. Every loss that didn't destroy you. Every season of silence that didn't silence you. Every financial struggle that didn't defeat you, every health battle that didn't claim you, you're still here, you're still breathing, you're still believing. That's not luck, that's divine selection. But I can see it in your eyes right now. You're sitting there thinking, "But I feel so unworthy. I've made so many mistakes. I've failed so many times. How could God use someone like me?" Stop, right there, stop. Unworthiness is the enemy's favorite weapon against God's chosen. He wants you to focus on your failures instead of your faithfulness. He wants you to see your mistakes instead of your miracles. He wants you to remember your falls instead of your resurrections. But 2 Timothy 4:8 promises, "Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will award to me on that day, and not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing." Did you catch that? All who have longed for his appearing. Not the perfect, not the young, not the impressive, all who have longed for him. And if you're watching this video at your age, still hungry for God, still believing for breakthrough, still refusing to give up, you qualify. You think God made a mistake with your timeline. You think you're behind schedule. Dear one, you're not late to the party. You are the party. The main event, the grand finale, the crescendo that heaven has been building toward your entire life. This is not just survival, this is coronation. You are not beggars at the edge of God's table hoping for crumbs. You are heirs, blood-bought, spirit-sealed, crown-wearing heirs of the King of Kings. This is not consolation for your failures. This is coronation for your faithfulness. Right now, as I speak these words, heaven is preparing your crown. Angels are polishing the jewels formed from every tear you've cried in secret. The gold is being refined from every prayer you've whispered in the dark. The weight of it will match the weight of glory you've carried through every storm. Say it with me. I receive my crown. Say it louder. I receive my crown. Because when you put that crown on, not in eternity, but right now in your spirit, everything changes. The way you walk changes. The way you talk changes. The way you see yourself changes. Crowned people don't beg. They decree. They don't settle. They reign. But here's the question that will determine everything. Will you reach up and take the crown heaven is offering, or will you keep staring at the ground? There comes a moment when even mercy trembles, when heaven says, enough. Picture this with me, chosen one. You're standing in your kitchen at 3 a.m., staring at that prescription bottle on the counter, the same bottle you've stared at for 3 months, wondering if tonight's the night you take them all. The silence is deafening. You call out to God, but your voice echoes back empty. Nothing. Absolute nothing. That's not depression, dear soul. That's the sound of a door closing. For 78 years, Martha attended the same Baptist church in Queens. Every Sunday, same pew, 3rd row from the front. She heard the call to surrender her life completely to Christ at least 1,000 times. One day, she'd whisper, when I'm ready, when things settle down, when I retire. Last Tuesday, Martha died alone in Mercy Hospital. The last word she spoke wasn't Jesus. It was wait. The doctor said her heart simply stopped. But I know better. Her heart had been stopping for decades, one ignored whisper at a time. Jesus told a story that should make your blood run cold. 10 virgins waiting for the bridegroom. 5 wise, 5 foolish. The foolish ones knew the bridegroom was coming. They had lamps, they had opportunity, they had time, but they didn't have oil when it mattered most. Matthew 25:11-12 records their desperate cry, Lord, Lord, open the door for us. But he replied, truly I tell you, I don't know you. Did you catch that? These weren't atheists, these weren't rebels, these were believers who simply waited too long. How many times have you felt God tugging at your heart? How many sermons have you sat through, nodding your head, feeling that familiar stirring, only to walk out the same person you walked in? How many times have you promised God tomorrow while your today slips through your fingers like sand? Delay is not harmless, it is deadly. The enemy's greatest weapon isn't temptation, it's procrastination. He doesn't need to make you hate God. He just needs to make you comfortable with keeping him waiting. 1 more year, 1 more month, 1 more day. But here's what happens in the spiritual realm every time you say not yet to God's call. Something hardens. Not all at once, that would be too obvious. It's subtle, like a callus forming on your soul. Each ignored whisper makes the next one a little quieter. Each delayed obedience makes the next call a little fainter. You want proof? Think about the last time you truly felt God's presence. Not the memory of feeling him, the actual experience. When was it? Last month? Last year? Can you even remember? That's not God moving away from you. That's you growing deaf to his voice. Proverbs 29:1 cuts like a surgeon's blade. Whoever remains stiff-necked after many rebukes will suddenly be destroyed without remedy. Without remedy, let that sink into your bones. I've seen it happen. Frank, age 83, called me last Christmas. Pastor, he said, his voice breaking, I can't feel God anymore. I pray, but it's like talking to the ceiling. Did he give up on me? Frank had been running from God's call for 40 years. 40 years of maybe later. 40 years of I'm not ready. And now, in his final season, the very presence he'd taken for granted felt like a distant memory. Too late. Too late. Too late. But not for you. Not yet. You see, the fact that you're watching this message, the fact that your heart is beating faster right now, the fact that something inside you is stirring with conviction, that's proof the door hasn't closed. That's evidence that mercy is still extended, still available, still calling your name. But mercy has an expiration date. God's patience is not infinite in the way we imagine it. Yes, He is long-suffering, but Scripture also speaks of a day when He says, "My spirit will not contend with humans forever." You feel it, don't you? That urgency building in your chest. That's not anxiety, that's the Holy Spirit sounding the alarm. Your time is not unlimited. Your opportunities are not endless. Your tomorrows are not guaranteed. How many more warnings will you need? How many more divine appointments will you let slip by? How many more moments of conviction will you explain away as emotion? The 5 foolish virgins had oil once. They had light once. They had opportunity once. But they squandered it, thinking there would always be more time to prepare. When the midnight cry came, their lamps had gone dark. Right now your lamp is still burning. Right now there's still oil in your vessel. Right now the door is still open. But for how much longer? I'm not trying to scare you into heaven, dear one. I'm trying to wake you up to the reality that your eternal destination is being decided by the choices you make today. Not the choices you plan to make tomorrow, the ones you make right now, in this moment, as conviction burns in your spirit. God doesn't send these urgent warnings to torment you. He sends them to rescue you, because He sees what you cannot see, how thin the line is between not yet and too late. If you still feel breath in your lungs, it means God's mercy hasn't shut the door. But every breath could be your last opportunity to say yes. Every heartbeat could be your final chance to surrender. So what will it be, chosen one? Will you be like Martha, carrying regret to your grave? Like Frank, wondering why heaven feels so silent? Like the 5 foolish virgins, knocking on a door that no longer opens? Or will you be different? Will you be the one who says yes while yes still matters? The question burning in the darkness of your soul right now is this: what if tonight is your last chance to make things right with God? You want to know why your life has been so hard? Why every time you took 2 steps forward, something knocked you 3 steps back? Why the people closest to you turned their backs when you needed them most? Why your most faithful prayers seem to bounce off heaven's ceiling like rubber balls? Listen to me, chosen one. What you've been calling bad luck, what you've been blaming on getting older, what you've been explaining away as just life being life that wasn't random, that was warfare. Spiritual warfare, so strategic, so targeted, so precisely aimed at your destiny that it would make a Navy SEAL weep. You've been under sniper fire for decades and didn't even know it. Every sleepless night when anxiety gripped your chest like a vice, that wasn't just stress. That was a demonic assignment to rob you of rest, because rested saints are dangerous saints. Every sudden financial crisis that hit just when you were getting ahead, that wasn't coincidence. That was hell's attempt to keep you dependent and distracted from your calling. Every betrayal that cut so deep you thought you'd never trust again, that was spiritual warfare, designed to build walls around your heart so you'd never risk loving boldly again. The enemy has been hunting your destiny like a bloodhound tracks a scent. But here's what breaks my heart about God's people: you've been blaming yourself for a war you didn't even know you were fighting. You've been carrying shame for wounds that were inflicted by invisible forces. You've been apologizing for scars that are actually proof of your significance in the kingdom of heaven. Psalm 91:11 declares with thunderous authority, "For He will command His angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways." Did you catch that? Guard you. Not suggest protection, not offer assistance. Command angels to surround you. But if angels are guarding you, what does that tell you about what's trying to get at you? The Apostle Paul rips the veil off this invisible reality in Ephesians 6:12. "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age." The fight you've been in wasn't against your ex-spouse. It wasn't against your ungrateful children. It wasn't against your failing health. Those were just the human faces on a spiritual war that's been raging over your life since before you took your first breath. You thought you were cursed, but the attack is proof you're marked. Let me shock you with this truth. Hell doesn't waste ammunition on empty targets. Satan doesn't deploy his best demons against powerless people. The devil doesn't orchestrate elaborate schemes to destroy ordinary lives. But you've been in his crosshairs since day one because he saw something in your future that terrified him. Think about it. Why has your life been harder than most? Why have you faced battles that would have broken weaker souls? Why have you been tested in ways that don't make sense? Because the enemy saw your potential and tried to curse your beginning. He saw your anointing and tried to crush your spirit. He saw your destiny and tried to destroy your faith. Every blow against you was a prophecy in disguise. When they rejected you at work, hell was trying to silence the voice that would speak life into corporate boardrooms. When your marriage fell apart, darkness was trying to prevent the ministry of healing you'd carry to broken families. When depression hit you like a freight train, the enemy was attempting to stop the hope you'd breathe into suicidal souls 30 years later. The darker the night you've walked through, the brighter the crown being prepared for your head. You want to know why you survived what should have killed you, why you're still here when others who seemed stronger didn't make it, why you kept getting back up when staying down would have been easier. Because you carry something hell cannot touch, something demons cannot steal, something circumstances cannot destroy. You carry the very breath of the Almighty in your bones. That depression that nearly took you out, you survived it because God has people to reach through your testimony. That addiction that should have destroyed you, you overcame it because there are captives waiting for your key. That betrayal that shattered your heart into a million pieces, you healed from it because wounded healers are the only ones who can truly mend broken souls. Your pain wasn't punishment, it was preparation for power. But I need you to understand something that will change how you see everything moving forward. The war isn't over. The enemy hasn't given up. But here's what's different now. You know you're in a fight. You're no longer taking friendly fire while thinking you're in a safe zone. Your eyes are open. Your guard is up. Your weapons are drawn. And when a chosen one finally recognizes they're at war, hell starts to tremble. Every ambush that failed to destroy you built your discernment. Every invisible chain that tried to bind you developed your spiritual strength. Every season of silence taught you to hear God's whisper above the roar of battle. You weren't just surviving, you were being trained for warfare at the highest levels. The enemy made one fatal mistake. He showed his hand too early. By attacking you so viciously, he revealed that you're carrying something he desperately wants to stop. And now that you know why you've been under fire, you can finally fight back with purpose. If you're still breathing, if after everything hell has thrown at you, you're still standing, still believing, still fighting, then say it out loud right now. The war didn't kill me. I am still here. I will finish. Because survival wasn't an accident. Survival was the sign that you're not just chosen, you're anointed, appointed, and absolutely unstoppable when you know who you really are. But knowing you've survived the war is just the beginning. Now comes the part where you discover what you're carrying that made hell so afraid. You've been carrying it for decades, haven't you? That ache. That burning question that visits you at 3 a.m. when the house is quiet and your mind won't stop replaying the moments. The job you didn't get in 1987. The house you lost the bid on in 2092. The relationship that ended just when you thought it was God's will. The business opportunity that slipped through your fingers like sand. And you've been whispering the same tortured prayer. God, why? Why did you let that door slam in my face when I was so sure it was? You leading me there. Listen to me, chosen one. What if I told you that every door that broke your heart was actually God's hand protecting you from something that would have broken your life? You see, we live in a world that worships open doors. We've been programmed to believe that every yes is a blessing and every no is a curse. But that's not how the kingdom operates. In heaven's economy, sometimes the greatest mercy comes disguised as the cruelest rejection. Think about Joseph. 17 years old, coat of many colors, dreams of greatness burning in his young heart. But what happened? His own brothers threw him into a pit, sold him into slavery. For 13 years, Joseph watched every door slam shut. Prison, betrayal, forgotten by the very people he helped. If you had asked Joseph at age 25 if God loved him, what do you think he would have said? But Genesis 50-20 reveals the mystery. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Every closed door was positioning him for a palace. Every rejection was redirecting him toward his true destiny. Not rejection, redirection. Let me ask you something that might cut deep. How many times have you fought God for something He was trying to save you from? How many doors have you beaten down with your fists, demanding entry, never realizing that behind that door was your destruction? You remember that job you begged God for in your 50s? The one that went to someone younger, someone less qualified. You cried yourself to sleep for weeks, didn't you? But what if I told you that company filed for bankruptcy 18 months later? What if that rejection was actually God yanking you back from a financial cliff you couldn't see? Not rejection, redirection. Think about Oprah Winfrey. Fired from her first television job in Baltimore, told she was unfit for television news. They said she was too emotional, too invested in the stories. What felt like career death was actually birth pains. That closed door forced her to find her true voice, her authentic path. If she had stayed in traditional news, the world would never have known the Oprah who would touch millions of lives. Or consider Tyler Perry. Homeless, living in his car. Plays failing, dreams dying. Door after door slammed shut. Critics mocked him. Theaters rejected him. For years, it looked like God had forgotten his address. But every no was preparing him for a yes so big it would revolutionize an entire industry. That homeless man would become one of the most powerful voices in entertainment. Not rejection, redirection. But here's where it gets personal for you, dear one. I need you to think about the relationship that ended. The one that left you shattered, questioning if you'd ever love again. You pleaded with God to bring them back. You bargained, you fasted, you cried until your eyes were swollen shut. But they never came back. What you didn't know then was what you're discovering now. That person wasn't your spouse, they were your assignment. God needed you single for a season because someone was coming who needed exactly what you carried. Someone who would appreciate the depth that pain had carved in your soul. That closed door wasn't punishment, it was preparation, not rejection, redirection. Romans 8:28 isn't just a pretty verse to put on greeting cards. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. All things, not some things, not the easy things. The heartbreaking, door-slamming, dream-crushing things. Here's what the enemy doesn't want you to understand. Every door he slams in your face is actually God's mercy in motion. The devil thinks he's blocking your blessing. But God is using those very blocks to build your character, deepen your trust, and position you for something greater than you could have imagined. You wanted that house in the suburbs? God saw the neighbor who would have destroyed your peace. You wanted that business partnership? God saw the betrayal that would have bankrupted your soul. You wanted that promotion? God saw the stress that would have cost you your health. The door you cried over was locked by God's own hand because what was behind it would have destroyed you. This is the strange mercy of closed doors. They hurt in the moment, but they heal in the revelation. What felt like abandonment was actually protection. What looked like God ignoring you was actually God shielding you. But I need you to do something right now that might feel impossible. I need you to thank Him for the doors He closed. I know it sounds crazy. I know your heart is still tender from some of those rejections. But healing begins when you stop fighting God's protection and start trusting His redirection. Say it aloud right now. Closed doors saved my life. Say it again, louder this time. Closed doors saved my life. Because somewhere in your past is a door that you're grateful never opened. Somewhere in your story is a no that became your greatest blessing. You just couldn't see it at the time because you were too close to the pain. Not rejection, redirection. The tears you cried over closed doors were watering the ground for what was really meant to bloom in your life. And now, decades later, you can finally see the garden that grew from those very tears. But here's what this means for your future. When the next door closes, and it will, you won't waste months in bitterness. You'll pause, you'll breathe, and you'll whisper, God, what are you protecting me from now? Where are you redirecting me? Because now you know the secret. Now you understand the strange mercy. Closed doors aren't the end of your story, they're the plot twist that makes the ending more beautiful than you ever dreamed possible. But if God's mercy has been protecting you all these years, through closed doors, what does that say about the door He's about to open? Listen to me, chosen one. There's something happening in the spiritual realm right now that most believers will miss entirely. Heaven has opened a window, not for weeks, not for months, but for exactly 7 days. And you're sitting in day 1. You think I'm being dramatic? Let me tell you what happened at Jericho. Those massive walls had stood for generations, 40 feet high, 20 feet thick, built to withstand any army. The people inside felt untouchable, unconquerable, but God had other plans. He told Joshua something that made no military sense. March around the city once a day for 6 days. On the 7th day, march 7 times, then shout. That's it. No battering rams, no siege engines, just walking, just obedience, just trust. But here's what most people miss about that story. It wasn't just about Jericho's walls. It was about Israel's faith being tested 1 day at a time. Day 1, they walked in silence, probably thinking, this feels pointless. Day 2, the walls looked exactly the same. Day 3, nothing had changed. By day 6, some of them were probably whispering, are we sure we heard God correctly? But on day 7, everything changed. The earth shook. The walls didn't just crack, they collapsed completely. What had stood for centuries fell in moments. Dear friend, you're in your countdown season right now, and I need you to understand something that could change the next 70 years of your life. Those walls that have been blocking your breakthrough, those barriers that have stood in your family for generations, those obstacles that seem unmovable, they're not as solid as they appear. You've been staring at the same financial struggles for decades, haven't you? The same health issues that doctors can't explain. The same family dysfunction that's been passed down like some cursed inheritance. The same spiritual dryness that makes you wonder if God even hears your prayers anymore. But what if I told you that you're not looking at permanent walls? What if you're looking at Jericho, and today is day 1 of your 7-day countdown? Here's the shocking truth that will either transform your life or terrify you. God doesn't always work in your timeline, but when He does move, it happens fast. The Bible says in Isaiah 60:22, when the time is right, I, the Lord, will make it happen. Not when you're ready, when He's ready. Moses wandered in the wilderness for 40 years, then suddenly burning bush, divine encounter, nation-changing assignment. Abraham waited 25 years for Isaac, then suddenly Sarah conceived at 90 years old. Joseph rotted in prison for years, then suddenly Pharaoh's dream, second in command of Egypt, saving an entire nation. The pattern is always the same. Long seasons of waiting, then sudden supernatural acceleration. You've been in your waiting season, but something shifted in the spiritual atmosphere 3 days ago. Can you feel it? That restlessness, that stirring, that sense that time is running out, not in a bad way, but in a divine way. Day 1. The call to attention. That's today. Heaven is getting your attention through this message, through circumstances, through that inner knowing that won't let you rest. Day 2. The call to alignment. Tomorrow, God will start showing you what needs to change, what needs to go, what needs to be surrendered. Day 3. The call to action. You'll feel the pull to do something you've been putting off, to make that call, to have that conversation, to take that step. Day 4. The call to authority. You'll start speaking differently, praying differently, carrying yourself with the confidence of someone who knows their breakthrough is close. Day 5. The call to acceleration. Things will start moving faster than they have in years. Phone calls, opportunities, divine appointments. Day 6. The call to anticipation. You'll feel it in your bones. Something big is about to happen. The spiritual atmosphere will be electric. Day 7. The shout. The moment when your obedience collides with God's timing and every wall that has held you back comes crashing down. But here's the critical part, and I need you to hear this clearly. This only works if you march, if you obey. If you do what God tells you to do each day, even when it doesn't make sense. The Israelites had to walk in faith for 6 days before they saw the miracle on day 7. They couldn't skip to the shout. They couldn't bypass the process. And neither can you. Right now, I want you to do something prophetic. Get a pen and paper. Write today's date at the top. Then write these 3 words. No more delay. Sign your name under it like you're signing a contract with heaven. This isn't superstition, this is spiritual warfare. When you mark a moment, you're telling the enemy that his season of blocking you is over. You're telling God that you're ready to march, ready to obey, ready to see those walls fall. Because here's what I've learned in 50 years of ministry. Walls don't fall by force, they fall by obedience. Your walls are trembling right now. The cracks are already forming. 7 days of aligned obedience could undo 70 years of delay. But you have to start marching. You have to start today. Day 1 doesn't wait for day 2. The countdown has already begun. So I'm asking you, are you ready to walk around your Jericho? Are you ready to trust God's strategy even when it looks foolish to everyone else? Are you ready to march in faith, knowing that day 7 is coming? Because if you are, then everything is about to change. But first, you need to understand what happens when chosen ones finally stop playing it safe and start playing for keeps. Chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred journey together, I need you to remember 3 unshakable truths that will anchor your soul in the days ahead. First, you are not too old, too forgotten, or too broken for God to use you powerfully. Every gray hair on your head is a crown of wisdom. Every scar on your heart is evidence that you survived what was meant to destroy you. Your age isn't your limitation, it's your qualification for the assignment heaven has been preparing for you. Second, the 7-day window we've talked about tonight isn't just a metaphor, it's your reality. Today is day 1. Your walls aren't as solid as they appear. Your breakthrough isn't as far away as you think. 7 days of radical obedience could unlock 70 years of accumulated blessing. Third, God is dead serious this time. The gentle nudges, the whispered invitations, those days are ending. This is your final call to step into everything He's had waiting for you since before you took your first breath. But beloved, I need you to know something deeper than knowledge, something that settles in your bones. You are not walking this path alone. Even when your children don't call, even when your body aches, even when your bank account runs low, the God who created you is still working behind the scenes of your life. He's moving mountains you can't see, opening doors you haven't found yet, orchestrating blessings you can't even imagine. And right here, in this digital sanctuary we've created together, you have thousands of brothers and sisters who understand your journey. Look at these comments flowing in, hearts connecting, spirits resonating, chosen ones recognizing each other across the miles. This isn't just a YouTube channel. This is your spiritual family. We see you. We understand you. We will stand with you. So let me ask you this final question, and let it echo in your heart long after this video ends. If God has brought you this far through every valley, every storm, every season that tried to break you, Why would he abandon you now, at the threshold of your greatest victory? Before I release you into your destiny, I want to place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority of someone who has seen God move mountains. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with us through this entire message. Lord, you see them right there in their living rooms, their bedrooms, their kitchens at 2 a.m. You know their names, you know their struggles, you know the tears they've cried when no one was watching. Father, I pray that you would breathe fresh wind into their weary bones right now. Where they feel depleted, restore them. Where they feel forgotten, remind them they are engraved on your palms. Where they feel overwhelmed by the walls before them, give them the faith to march. God, I speak breakthrough over their finances. Let provision flow like a river that never runs dry. I speak healing over their bodies. Let your resurrection power touch every cell, every organ, every system that needs your touch. I speak reconciliation over their families. Bring prodigal children home, restore broken relationships, heal generational wounds. Most of all, Father, let them feel your presence right now. Let them know in their spirit that you are not distant, you are not angry, you are not disappointed. You are proud of how they've carried what you've given them. You are pleased with their faithfulness through the fire. Give them the courage to march around their Jericho. Give them the strength to obey when it doesn't make sense. Give them the faith to shout when you say shout, knowing that every wall that has held them back will come crashing down. In the mighty name of Jesus, who wore a crown of thorns so they could wear a crown of glory, I seal this prayer over their lives. Let your will be done, Lord. Let your kingdom come. Amen. Now, I want to hear from you. In the comments below, tell us what wall you're ready to march around. What's the one thing you've been believing God for that needs to happen in the next 7 days? Don't hold back. This community will surround you with prayer and agreement. Type day 1 if you're ready to start your countdown. Share this video with someone who's been walking around the same mountain for too long. And if you feel led, tell us your story. Someone else needs to hear that they're not alone in their battle. If this message has stirred something deep in your spirit, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You're not just subscribing to a channel, you're joining a family of chosen ones who refuse to give up on God's promises. Every week, we're diving deeper into the mysteries of your calling, unpacking the destiny written in your DNA, and building a community where faith grows and miracles happen. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart, for letting these words penetrate the sacred places of your soul. Thank you for being brave enough to believe that maybe, just maybe, your greatest days aren't behind you, they're ahead of you. Your 7-day countdown starts now. Your walls are already trembling. Your breakthrough is closer than you think. Go in peace. Go in power. Go with the unshakable knowledge that you are chosen, you are loved, and you are never, ever alone. Until we meet again, keep marching, keep believing, keep expecting your day 7 to arrive. God bless you, chosen one. Your Jericho is about to fall.